Alright, so I'm going to be doing something a little bit different for today's video. Now, I've never done a review for this channel before, so I figured why not start with this game. Now, as the title says, I am indeed a Xbox fan. I mainly play Xbox. Now, I have a PC. I occasionally play PC games, but I'm not too crazy into it. And I mean, I've had a PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and now 4. I just got it not too long ago. But I mainly play Xbox. Like, all my friends have Xbox, and I played a lot of Halo growing up, and all my friends just decided to go with the Xbox One this time around, so I just mainly prefer to have my games on Xbox. Now, with that said, I've only played 2 games for my PlayStation 4, which was God of War and now Spider-Man. And I've got to give it to them. PlayStation has some pretty good exclusives. Now, I'm pretty unbiased when it comes to this because, I mean, like I said, I've only played 2 games. None of my friends really have PlayStation 4, so I can't play with them. So I'm just going to judge this based off of a single-player experience and as an Xbox fan. So I'd like to start off saying Spider-Man is pretty good. Now, I'm pretty jealous. I wish it was on Xbox because I'd like to have the gamer score and stuff that comes along with it, but oh well. Now, a good starting point would be the graphics. I was pretty damn impressed with the graphics. Like, I mean, the reflections of like puddles, the reflections of glass, the lighting is pretty great. At nighttime, the city's beautiful. I mean, they got the city just perfect. It is phenomenal. It is so much fun to just swing around the city just in free roam, just to enjoy the view, or climbing to the tallest building and just looking off into the distance. It's just a blast. I freaking love this game. And then they also have that photo mode. A lot of games don't have that, but the ones that do don't really do it that well. I like how there's different filters and stuff. You can make it look like a comic book. It's not the greatest camera mode, but I mean, it's pretty good, especially with these graphics. It looks pretty great. You can't really change the lighting or anything, which kind of sucks, but I mean, overall, it's a pretty good feature that they added. So the graphics are good, the free roam is good, so let's talk about the story for a little bit. Now, what I like about this game is that it doesn't hold your hand. Everybody knows the origins of Spider-Man. We've seen all the movies. The comic books have been out for years. I mean, Spider-Man's been around forever. I mean, we know the story of Spider-Man. We know the villains. We know all the lore. And this game, I mean, they know that, so they just sort of throw you into it, and all this stuff's already happened. Like, he's already thrown bad guys in jail, and they sort of reference things that have happened as you progress through the story. So they'll like reference Mysterio, or they'll reference Rhino, or just whoever, and sort of as you play, and you're like, oh, well, I guess Spider-Man already fought this guy, and they threw him in jail, and you sort of know this stuff, and they paint the picture as you play the game, which is nice, because I don't want another origin story. I don't think anybody does. But I think what makes this game stand out is that it's not tied to a movie. Like, I grew up playing the Spider-Man games. I played Spider-Man 2, I played Spider-Man 3, which was based off the Tobey Maguire movies, and then I played Ultimate Spider-Man for the original Xbox, and it was basically like a comic book. I think it was voiced by Drake Bell, which was weird, but you could play as like Venom and stuff in that game. So that one was a pretty fun game too. I mean, the problem with all these Spider-Man games was that they are tied to the movies, so you kind of knew what was going to happen. You knew who the bad guys were going to be, and it sort of had to follow the plot of the movie. Well, this game doesn't do that, and they just take the lore and they throw it all together, and they can do whatever they want, which is, I think it's nice, because you didn't know who you're going to fight, other than like the E3 trailer where they kind of gave you an idea, but they throw some twists in there. So I really like the direction that they took with the story, and it was nice to not have to follow a plot of a movie for once, so that's a plus. Now, as for the actual story itself, I like the pacing of it. It's pretty lengthy. It's not something you're going to beat in like 2 hours. It's got some length to it. I kind of like how they reference, like, you'll play a few missions, and then Spider-Man will be like, oh no, I've been neglecting the city, and they kind of force you to do some side missions in between the main story, because they don't want you to just rush through the story and beat it and right off the bat. They want you to enjoy every aspect of the game, and they want you to kind of take your time with it, which I actually enjoyed that part. I have nothing wrong with doing these side missions in between, especially since it helps you level up and get more gadgets as you progress through the story. But as for the characters and the different things, I really enjoyed it. I like the animations, I like the cutscenes, I like the dialogue. I think they did a really good job with the voice actors. They were pretty spot on. I like their take on Aunt May. I think she's pretty cool. One thing I wasn't too big a fan of was there's these little, like, it's part of the main story, but you play as like MJ, or like you just play as other characters sometimes. It'll like switch between Spider-Man and other characters, and you play sort of like stealth missions where you just sneak past bad guys that are oblivious, and the AI is really dumb at this part. Like, you can stand in front of people and they'll see you and they'll be like, oh, it must have been the wind, and they'll just turn around and keep on walking. So the AI is really dumb in these like little side stealth missions, but I mean, they're not too big. Like, I'm not gonna knock the game too much for those, but they weren't really that fun. So but other than that, there's a few plot twists. I won't go into spoilers, but there's a few things that you don't really expect to happen. But one thing that I didn't like, which kind of affects my overall score of the game, was the boss fights were kind of easy. I mean, if you bump the difficulty, I bet you that they'd be a challenge, but I just played on normal mode. But they felt like they'd be pretty easy. You have to face some of these like iconic villains. You have to face some of them like 2 at a time. I know it kind of ruins the boss fight for me. I'm not going to tell you who you fight or whatever, but you fight 2 enemies at the same time. I'm sorry if you think that's a spoiler. I guess that's a small spoiler, but you fight two bosses at the same time, but it kind of takes away of the feel for me. Like, I'm not really that afraid of the villain if I can take 2 of them on. Like, they don't seem like that scary of a Spider-Man bad guy if Spider-Man can take on 2 of them at the same time. I don't know, so that part I didn't really like. Yeah, the boss fights were pretty simple. They weren't that difficult. And then the AI, like the same. I get it because it's a Spider-Man game. It's kind of the same with all superhero games, how there's like a crap ton of bad guys. But imagine if like New York City had this many bad guys in it. It'd be like an all-out war. But there's so many bad guys that's just the same fight over and over and over. Like, it got kind of repetitive. There wasn't much variety. Like, there kind of was with the different factions, but it just, the bad guys got kind of stale fighting them over and over again. But you see the same thing in like the Batman Arkham series and stuff. And I keep seeing on the internet, like, a lot of people keep crapping on this Spider-Man game saying Batman was better. I think it's mainly Xbox people, but you can't really compare this Spider-Man game to the whole trilogy of Batman. Like, Batman was a pretty good trilogy of games. Like, I don't know, but as a superhero game, I personally think that this is my favorite Spider-Man game by far, and it might be up there like as my favorite superhero game of all time too. Like, I really like the Batman Arkham games, but this is just a phenomenal game. I had so much fun. I enjoyed the costumes. There's a huge variety of costumes. Some of them are pretty freaking sweet. Some of them, not so much. It kind of just depends on your personal taste, but there's like a good, I don't know, maybe 18-ish costumes. I don't know the exact number, but there's quite a few amount of costumes. And then there's different collectibles and stuff, and like the city's broken up into different regions, and then each region has like side missions. It's got collectibles, and you can sort of keep track of it with the map. But one thing that this game did that I was impressed with was the collectibles. Like, the game is so fun that I actually didn't mind going through and getting all the collectibles. Like, most games feels like a major grind, and I'm just like, oh, great, I have to collect all the feathers, or I have to collect all the coins, or whatever the item is. Like, I know Assassin's Creed was pretty bad one time. I think it was feathers you had to collect. But it just felt like a huge grind. But in the Spider-Man game, you collect backpacks. and it doesn't really make sense why Spider-Man would just leave, I think it's 53 backpacks laying around the city, but it's not that bad. And when you collect them, it gives a little piece of lore with each item. So you collect it, and then he'll, like, I know one of them's like a pair of glasses, so you can move the glasses around, and he'll say a little quick 2 or 3 sentences about the glasses, and it's a nice little extra piece of lore, and some of them have some hidden Easter eggs. So, but yeah, that's what impressed me. If I'm having fun getting the collectibles and it doesn't feel like much of a grind to me, then I think that's a huge plus, and they definitely got that right. Now, another thing is James Jameson. I mean, y'all know him from the Daily Bugle. Well, he has a radio talk show now, and he comes across like throughout your gameplay, and like anytime you do a mission or something, he'll have something else to say, and he keeps popping up, and I think that's really funny. I love the way that they have him implemented in this game, and he just keeps talking crap on Spider-Man throughout your entire playthrough. He kind of reminds me of Alex Jones in real life, but like the Spider-Man version. Like, he's full of conspiracy theories and stuff. He's so over the top, but it's funny because of how stupid he is. There's just so many small things that come together. Like, you can look at newspapers on the sidewalk. You can instead of like punching civilians, obviously, because you're Spider-Man, you like give them high fives or ask them how they're doing, or hey, what's up, and the civilians act like they want to see you. And there's just all these little small things that add up to make a really great game. And the side missions are really cool. It feels like somebody different designed each side mission. I don't know if that's the case, but it feels like each side mission was something new and unique, and some of them were kind of iffy, but a lot of them weren't that bad, and they actually added something extra to the game and made it actually fun to go out and do the side missions. It didn't feel like a grind. But overall, I really, really enjoyed this game. This is gonna go up there with, to be honest, one of my favorite games probably of all time. You might not agree with that. I know some people didn't like this game, but I 100% agree with the scores that you see online, like the Metacritic score and whatnot. I think this game is fantastic, and this is coming from an Xbox player. I am so jealous that PlayStation got this, and same with God of War. Like, I really loved God of War too, but this Spider-Man game, if you are on the fence about getting a PlayStation and you like Spider-Man, like if you are a Spider-Man fan, you have to get this game. It's plain and simple. If you like Spider-Man, this is a console seller. Like, this game to me, this and God of War, those two games is enough to go out and buy a PlayStation, in my opinion. Now, I don't have a PlayStation Pro. I just have like a regular PlayStation, and the graphics were phenomenal. So I bet on a PlayStation Pro, they'd be even better. But if I was to rate this game, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Now, I can't give it a perfect score. It's not worthy of a 10 out of 10 because, like I said, some of the enemies get a little repetitive. The bosses were kind of easy, and they didn't really feel like that much of a challenge. And sort of towards the end, the plot kind of doesn't make some sense. I don't know. It feels kind of rushed towards the end, but I overall enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed the story. I loved the graphics. I love the free roam. I love the costumes. It's just a really great game. And now, I mean, there's going to be DLC for it. They're going to have an update where you can play the game through multiple times, like a in-game plus mode, so you can beat the game. Then you can take all your suit powers and stuff and your costumes and play the game again. So that's also another bonus. Oh, and I forgot to mention the suit powers. Some of the suit powers are a little overpowered and they're kind of unbalanced, but some of them are pretty good. Like, some of the different combinations are pretty cool to use. So leveling up definitely feels rewarding in this game too. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this review. This is my first ever review. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you did, I can do more of these. Now, I'm not gonna do this very professional like other YouTube channels. I'm just gonna, I don't know, I like going with the more like podcast kind of style where I just sit down and just give my thoughts. I don't like to have a script. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments what else you'd like to see reviewed. And yeah, that's gonna do it for me. And I'll talk to you guys next time.